Welcome back, Troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. Happy Fender Friday. We're going to have a quadruple feature of a Japan limited edition exclusive lineup of guitars. Alright, so this thing was released and I had a little bit of a hard time deciding which one should I get. So for your viewing pleasure, I purchased one of each of the series. That way we can inspect them here in person and see which one I want to continue the review and demo with. And that series is called the Noir series. So if you're not familiar, Noir is a French word for the color black. However, it's also a type of film for like drama, crime scene stuff. So needless to say, I think it's pretty easy to know what color these things are gonna be. But each of the models from this series are 128,700 yen. And after you calculate in taxes, import duties, and fees, you're roughly looking at about 1,600 bucks if you want to import one of these yourself for each one. Now, they don't always come with a Fender Strat, but the dealer I was working with on this one, since I bought 4 of them, they're like, hey, let's spice this up for this guy, because I've been a pretty good customer of theirs. So let's go ahead and get this stuff off. Easy enough to do here. And get our first one out. And this one is a Jazzmaster. Now, it was between this one and the Telecaster for me, so we'll have to see how this one looks. Because this new series is a different take on a satin finished instrument. And it features something really unique on the headstock that I've never seen before. A metal logo. Take a look at that. That definitely shines in the light nice and bright. I wasn't really sure what to really expect on that, because at first I just thought, okay, it's just like a red silk screen type thing. But then they also grace us with this really cool pick guard. So the whole Noir thing, clearly it's a black instrument. They give it this satin finish, but I will say that looks great in person, because it's a different color than the kind of more glossy pick guard that you got going on here. It is a 3-ply black, red, black layered pick guard. Oh, that's really sweet. You can see the red layer inside the pick guard where they cut away for the wheels. So check this thing out. It's a full-blown Jazzmaster here. He even has this stuff going on. And the other really interesting fact about these is take a look at that fretboard. It looks super dark, right? It's still rosewood. They just dyed it a black color. That's actually a spec on these things. I found it really interesting how you can still see the rosiness right here, and then it turns into the dark stained stuff. So it kind of gives you a nice break between the headstock that's painted black and the fretboard. Oh, and that's really strange. You can see it on the side of the fretboard too. It kind of gives you like a faux brown binding effect. That's actually pretty sweet. And the back of the neck on this one, it actually has almost a little bit of quilting action to it. It's definitely a satin finish all over this thing. But the other special thing about the Noir series is, take a look at our chrome. It's black chrome, so it's not necessarily completely blacked out hardware, but it's very close. So yeah, this is definitely a contender. I don't do too many Jazzmasters, so it probably makes sense if I did this. For guitar number 2, let's open this box up. We've got one for the bass lovers. But this time, I believe we have a precision bass sleeping in here. And on this one, I got a classic yellow outline strap. There we go. Time to get this one out. Oh wow, this is really lightweight. That's my first impressions even before we got it out here. Hardly even fits in their foam casing. Oh man, yeah, this one definitely stands out more because that Fender Precision bass is a lot larger. I'm wondering if they just put a red piece of metal underneath that, or is it inlaid? I'm not quite too sure. But the reveal of the P bass, that's looking pretty sweet. The other reason why I decided to bring, one of every one of them in here, because I would have chose either the Jazzmaster or the Telecaster that we'll see here probably last. But I knew there would be a bass guy that went, oh man, I wish you would have got that so I could have seen it in person or purchased it from you. So these will all be available on my website if you don't feel like importing one of your own. So this one, it feels like it's going to be really neck heavy. That's probably the only downside I can see to this, but you do get a little bit more real estate with this whole pick guard thing. And oh, sweet. It looks like, do we actually get a cover for this one? Like the Gino Jazz bass? It's pre-drilled for it, but do they actually give us one in here? Unfortunately, it does not seem like it, so that's kind of strange that they did that. They also leave one right there for a thumb rest if you want to install it, but unfortunately, they don't include those in the gig bag. Now this one, that whole binding effect isn't quite as extreme. You can still kind of see it, but I think it definitely varies depending on, you know, how rosy your rosewood fretboard was to begin with. But this has got all the same stuff going on for it, just in bass format. So let's go ahead and switch over to our next one, which in this case, it'd be this guy. This one got kind of a retro looking white strap. But our big reveal for this one, is this the Telecaster or something else? Let's find out. Ooh, that's a Stratocaster headstock. Maybe it's because I'm used to seeing like bigger headstocks. This one's like a very vintage looking small one. But that logo looks pretty nice on that. And this one has a nice rosy fretboard. That's really what you want on these, is the rosy fretboards that were then dyed dark, so you get that whole binding effect. But oh, check this out. This is your Stratocaster version of the Noir series, which I would say is looking pretty sleek here. Unfortunately, I've just decided I am not a Stratocaster guy. I really do not enjoy demoing Strats. That doesn't mean that I haven't fallen in love with certain Stratocasters, like my denim blue sandblasted one. That's a nice guitar. But I don't think this is going to be the one that I choose. But oh, what is that? Fender 75. They must have some sort of a 75th anniversary. This one actually has a 2021 serial number, so I don't remember seeing that on the other ones, but I think those were 2020, so that might be something to look forward to on Made in Japan guitars for 2021. Maybe they'll even do it on the regular ones. Something I'm noticing that's different on this one is you get a black chrome screws, but these ones are not chrome. They're just actually black coated. So that kind of gives you a color variance between the ones that actually hold the pickups within the pickguard and the ones that are securing the pickguard to the body. That's kind of interesting. Cool. And now for my favorite Fender guitar to demo on the channel, the Telecaster. Now I will say, going into this, I really thought this would be my review and demo piece, with the Jazzmaster being a close second. But this is going to have to really impress me to beat out that Jazzmaster, because so far, I think it's the most unique. This one, we get kind of like a silver and white strap. So I would say I'm all set on nice Fender straps. So white, blue, yellow, and a white and yellow. Let's see this bad boy. Oh, that's looking nice. So here's our Telecaster. I don't know. This is really, really cool looking too. Oh man, this one even has that nice binding effect going on as well with the rosewood. Oh, and to top it off, it's got a little bit of flamed figuring depending on which angle you look at it. The only thing that kind of makes me sad about this whole series is they left the necks so boring and plain. Like, sometimes you can find ones with some nice wood grain, but when the rest of the guitar is kind of, you know, this black color, you would expect them to like color it in black as well or something. As far as special features on this one, kind of like the Stratocaster, anything that mounts it to the mounting system itself usually gets those completely black ones like that, whereas you get the black chrome for securing the whole thing to the body. Something else I noticed on this one is they have a lot more rosewood showing right here. Instead of just being a thin line, they just let it come out a little bit more. And since they went with the metal headstock logo, it would have been cool if they would have found a way to have a metal pickguard. That would have been sweet. Oh, decisions. Telecaster, Stratocaster, P-Bass. I'm sorry, the P-Bass had no chance. I'm not in the mood for a bass guitar today. And Jazzmaster. In my opinion, the Telecaster looks the best. It's nice and compact. You can see the red on the pickguard. You get it on the headstock. Maybe not as prominent as some of the other ones. I'm not a big fan of how large that looks, though. I like it when it's just a little bit more subtle like we have on the Stratocaster. But I guess now that we look at it, that's also present on the Jazzmaster. It's just not quite as large, but it still has that swoop. The Stratocaster's nice, but I just don't think I'm in the mood for one of those today. I feel like we don't do Jazzmasters enough, so I'm going to do this review and demo on the Jazzmaster, because I feel it's the best combination of showing everything on the workbench, from that binding to just being something a little bit different on the channel. So troglodytes, let's go ahead and throw that bad boy on the workbench and take an individual look at its parts and specs. Inside the Noir Jazzmaster, let's take a look here. So, very traditional style. It's got the full wiring that these things normally have. So, rhythm lead circuit's what we're talking about. But with everything taken off, this is what it looks like itself. You can see where the pickups mount right there and here, and you do get easy access to the truss rod. You don't even have to take the pickguard off to adjust that truss rod. You can actually get it just like that. As far as the pickups, they're nothing too fancy or spectacular. They just called them the vintage style single coil Jazzmaster pickups. Now, when it comes to Jazzmasters, I love the pure vintage 65 pickups, so I don't know if I'll like these or not, but we can definitely give them a try. But I don't see any markings on these things unless I were to rip this off, and I don't want to do that. But the entirety of the pickguard has been shielded off on the underside. So this is your rhythm lead circuit here. You can see they're just little wheels on the underside. But here's a good angle to see what I was talking about. How you can see that red in between the black layers. Now that might look pretty obvious like within the screw holes, but you don't really see that when everything's installed. But installed, you do see it on the thumb wheel. So that's what made me ultimately decide that I wanted to do this one for the tear apart segment. So this is your volume and tone control for this circuit. And this guy's just your 3-way toggle switch for your pickups like normal. And then I was surprised to see CTS pots in here. I was not expecting that. And of course, our basic output jack. So it's constructed pretty basically, nothing too fancy underneath the hood. The bridge is also done up in black chrome. I will say, it kind of has a certain cheap feel to it. Not quite as heavy as the other Jazzmaster bridges that I remember anyways. Here's what the trem cavity route looks like. You've got your grounding wire right there, and just your typical route right here. But what's kind of strange about this bridge is, I don't know if it was defective from the factory or if I'm just doing it wrong, but the locking mechanism isn't actually long enough to secure underneath that to prevent it from moving if you wanted to lock it down. So I'm either doing something wrong, but normally it's just a simple push your bar down, slide that into place. So I'm just gonna screw this all the way down so I don't have to worry about tuning instability. I did notice that the screws that they use to secure this to the body are a lot smaller than the American variety. The bar is a nice black chrome color as well with a black plastic tip. The bar is really nice on this thing too. It just pops in and out of place. You don't have to secure it down. It's nice and secure itself. It's not flopping around everywhere. And as I was talking about on some of those other ones, how they have the pure black screws for things that's secure to the pickguard itself, and then a black chrome one for things that's secure to the body. As far as our pickup readings go, 7.44 k ohms in the bridge, neck position is about the same, 7.24, and then about half that in the middle, 3.68. And in the up position over here, it's 7.27. And for the Noir series, all the bodies are made out of basswood. So moving on to our neck here, we get a maple neck with a rosewood fretboard, but once again, directly in the spec sheets, these things are called black stained rosewood. Now what I kind of found interesting is I wanted to do a little bit of a conditioning job on this one just to see if will the dye come off on your hands? This is what I was able to rub off of it while conditioning it. So it almost looks like instead of a pure ebony, it's more of a really dark brown. Now do I think that's going to rub off on your fingers? I doubt it. But we've got 21 narrow tall frets on this fretboard. It's a pretty standard 9.5 inch radius. And I would assume a 25.5 inch scale length, but let's check that. Yes, we're all good there. The nut itself is kind of interesting too. It's synthetic bone, but it's dyed black and measures 1.62 inches. By the 12th, we get 2.01. First fret neck depth, 0.88. And a fairly consistent 0.92 by the 12th. Fender calls this a U-shaped neck. Here's kind of a nice angle to see what I was talking about, how it looks like it has brown binding. So it's a really dark top and then just a light brown color on the edge. Now only about 2 out of the 4 of these have that phenomenon because the other rosewoods were just dark to begin with. But I've got to say, I dig it. I know some people probably say, oh, why don't you just, completely cover it over? That way it's a completely blacked out theme. But, it looks nice in my opinion. But now moving on to our headstock, it is a black painted cap, satin poly finish, just like the rest of this guitar is. It looks more like a reflective surface, like a tin foil or something. So I'm not sure what exactly they use, but if you get really zoomed up in here, you can see there's like bumps in it. That's what makes me think it's like a tin foil material. Honestly, in a super close up like this, it doesn't look quite as good as it does, you know, just a couple of inches away here. So from far away, it might catch the light and shine and just be exactly what you want. I'm surprised they didn't go for red numbering and lettering on the knobs. I think that would have looked nice as well, but at the same time, maybe that would have been too much. But it is a satin finish all over this. And when we flop over to the back side, just regular Jazzmaster stuff going on here. 1 comfort carve back there, 4 bolt-on neck, nothing fancy here, with your 2 black chrome strap buttons in your regular locations. Then we get to the neck. Nice wood grainage, a little bit of figuring. What more can you really ask for? And here's what our neck profile looks like at the 1st fret and at the 12th fret. It's a nice neck profile, kind of feels similar to like a 60s Slim, but yet it has a little bit more of a hump on the back. Not like hard V or anything, but it definitely fills your hand quite nicely. But up here by the 12th fret, as evidenced by our contour gauge, it definitely flattens up, made for soloing. But moving on here, this one was made in 2020, so it does not have that anniversary logo. And this guitar was made in Japan. And here we can see those black chrome tuners, which look pretty sweet. All said and done, this one weighs 7 pounds, 13.5 ounces. Let's go ahead, plug it in, and hear how it sounds. Okay, let's go ahead and run through the tones. A really nice versatile guitar. I haven't had a Jazzmaster in a while. It just reminded me of how much I love Jazzmaster style pickups. This gets a thumbs up from me. I wasn't expecting much from these pickups, but nice and clear. Which has just enough bite. Not quite as much as the Telecaster, but it really has that bell-like chime going for it in spades. Now let's try some distortion. this actually sounds really good distorted too. Okay, so normally neck pickups get really, muddy when you got dirt on. This one doesn't really do that. It's just ridiculously clear. And the bridge performs great too. And the middle has a nice talkiness to it, I guess you could say. But then what's unique is when you activate your rhythm circuit, it almost kind of acts as a humbucker. Pretty much the only negative thing I can say about these pickups are they're really noisy. I mean, listen to this. But there's pedals you can use to help you get around that, but it kind of just comes with the territory of having a single coil pickup. The distorted tones are a bit thin, so I think you could beef up like the bass response on your amp or something to get a little bit more out of them from that aspect. What are my final thoughts on the Noir Jazzmaster? I really enjoyed this. I was kind of leaning towards this one, but really wanting to do the Telecaster, but I'm glad I gave this a chance because I think now I want to go buy some more Jazzmasters. I really like this finish. I know it's just a satin finish, and you can find satin on other things, but I don't think I've had many satin Fenders, and this just feels great. Like, it's not a cheap satin finish feel either. It's like, it feels like a completed product, not like it's lesser quality. So as far as the tones go, absolutely phenomenal. You heard these things in the demo, so I'll let that speak for itself whether they are nice to your ears or not. Now for me, I just completely tightened this spring down. That way the vibrato is absolutely worthless. You can't even move it if you wanted to, because I don't have much of a use for that, but you can always set it up whatever way that you prefer. I just used my palm to bend the strings behind the bridge if I needed a little shimmer. The only negative thing I can say about these is, to get one to the US, they are a little bit expensive for what they are, because there are similar guitars that you can get. You could really just take any of these core model things, parts, caster, bodies, make something very similar for a lot less. However, if you're into authentic Fender branded products like I am, there was also a made in Mexico run of these done in 2017. They look pretty similar as far as this goes. They still have the pickguard and everything, but they have slightly different logos. They didn't get the metal reflective ones. It's just kind of like a red and black silk screen, if I'm remembering correctly. You'll see them here on the screen. And you'll also notice that those ones did not get dyed a darker color on the fretboard, but those are about the same or slightly cheaper. They're kind of a rare model now, so the used values might be different, but I wanted to bring that up anyways, just in case you search, Fender Noir, and you're like, hey, why is this one here? Yeah, that was around 2017. So would I ultimately suggest checking one of these things out? After playing it and experiencing it, yes, I would. I was really thinking that this is just one of those, if you really like it, get it for yourself. Otherwise, I'm sure there's something similar you can buy. But I hope you enjoyed checking out this whole Noir series with me. The Jazzmaster, Telecaster, Stratocaster, and P-Bass. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you tomorrow on the next episode. Take care.